Welcome, gents. The quietest ones often carry the deepest storms, not because they're weak, but because they know the damage silence can do. Trying to hurt a Sigma male is like throwing stones at still water. You may think you've made a splash, but what follows isn't loud. It's deep, unsettling, and unforgettable. Unlike those who wear their emotions on their sleeves, a Sigma male keeps his cards close. He doesn't shout, doesn't plead, and doesn't chase after explanations. Instead, he watches, learns, and remembers. He won't retaliate the way you expect. No arguments, no back and forth, just distance. He becomes unreachable, and that is his way of taking power back. What most don't understand is that he was never dependent on you in the first place. You weren't his source of strength. You were simply part of the story. And when you hurt him, he turns the page without warning. If you're the kind of person who thought silence means surrender, think again. With him, it means you've been replaced. Mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. He doesn't just cut ties. He evaporates, and somehow you're left feeling the weight of that emptiness far more than any insult or retaliation ever could. For those who see parts of themselves in this, understand this. Your strength is not in what you say, but in what you walk away from. If you're calm in chaos, precise in pain, and grounded through betrayal, you're already more powerful than you think. You are the storm they never saw coming. Let's begin, gents. Number 1. He learns from pain faster than most learn from pleasure. What you meant to break him only becomes part of his evolution. You're not wounding him, you're sharpening him. You don't get to break a Sigma male. You only get to witness what your betrayal turns him into. And here's the thing most people never expect. He doesn't just survive pain. He absorbs it, dissects it, and rebuilds himself with it. While others sit in sorrow asking, why me? He's already asking, what's next? The heartbreak, the disrespect, the backstabbing, it doesn't sink him, it upgrades him. The very thing you hoped would leave him weakened becomes the spark that pushes him deeper into his own power. He doesn't use pain to play the victim. He uses it like a blade, refining himself, trimming the excess, cutting off the noise. And while most people wait for peace or validation to grow, he grows in the fire. That's why people underestimate him at first. He looks quiet, detached, calm. But behind that stillness is someone who doesn't panic, doesn't crumble, and doesn't beg for mercy. By the time he comes out on the other side, he's no longer the man you thought you knew. And that's when it hits you. You didn't break him. You introduced him to another version of himself, one that's colder, wiser, and harder to access. What you tried to use against him will become the very reason he rises, not with noise, not with drama, but with elevation. And here's the cruel twist for those who tried to hurt him. While they're still explaining, defending, or repeating the same patterns, he's already gone, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And that absence will haunt you far longer than his presence ever did. He doesn't come back for revenge. He doesn't need to. His evolution is the revenge. Number 2, he'll make peace with the betrayal before you even feel guilty. He doesn't wait for your apology or explanation. He removes the emotional weight quietly and surgically. The Sigma male has a way of handling betrayal that most people will never understand. He doesn't explode. He doesn't post cryptic messages or try to make you feel sorry. He simply processes the pain with a calm so deep it's almost unsettling. While others need closure, he gives it to himself. He doesn't need to hear why you did it. He already understands. And more importantly, he's already done carrying the weight of it. The moment he feels that shift, that break in loyalty or trust, he goes inward, not to sulk, but to clean house. He begins sorting through what stays and what goes, the connection, the memories, the emotions. Everything is placed under a microscope. If it no longer serves him, he lets it go with surgical precision. No drama, no second chances, just silence and clarity. And what makes this so powerful is that he moves on before you even realize what you've lost. While you're still stuck in your excuses, trying to figure out how to explain yourself, he's already found peace. He's already made the decision to detach, not out of bitterness, but out of strength. He refuses to be emotionally held hostage by anyone, even those he once cared for deeply. You think you'll have time to fix it, but with him the clock doesn't tick, it just stops. One day, he's there. The next, he's gone. And you don't get a warning. No emotional outburst, no drawn-out conversation, just a clean exit that leaves you sitting with your own guilt in a room he'll never return to. That's the danger of hurting a Sigma male. He won't fight to stay. He'll make peace with losing you, and you'll spend the rest of your days wondering how someone could vanish so completely. Number 3, He doesn't forget, he archives. He may not retaliate right away, but every move you made gets stored. He's not plotting revenge. He's planning your irrelevance. A Sigma male doesn't come after you with loud confrontations or petty retaliation. That's not how he works. Instead, he observes in silence, collects details, and stores every shift in tone, every fake apology, every pattern you thought he'd overlook. But here's the catch. He's not holding on to it out of spite. He's creating a map, a clear picture of who you really are when the mask slips. He doesn't get emotional. He gets surgical. Every time you think he let it slide, he was actually updating his mental file. And once the pattern is clear, he doesn't announce the verdict. He just acts on it. Quietly, sharply, permanently. You'll think everything is fine, that he's still around, still connected. But what you won't notice is that you're already fading into the background of his life. He stops sharing, stops engaging, stops trusting, and not in a loud way that begs for attention, but in a way that slowly erases your place in his world. He doesn't retaliate because he doesn't need to. He doesn't want revenge because that still gives you a role in his life. What he wants is detachment. What he chooses is peace. And the final blow isn't anger, it's indifference. By the time you realize he's gone, you'll understand something brutal. You weren't blocked. You were archived, filed away in a chapter he's already closed. You became irrelevant not because he hated you, but because he outgrew the version of himself that tolerated you. And that's what makes trying to hurt him a mistake. He doesn't come back swinging. He simply deletes the connection and makes sure you're never downloaded into his life again. Number 4. You won't see the punishment, you'll feel the absence. His silence is louder than your excuses. When he vanishes from your life, it feels like a cold war with no end. When a Sigma male decides he's done, there's no scene, no meltdown, no final argument, just quiet. And not the kind of silence that leaves room for hope, but the kind that settles in and stays, heavy, cold, and irreversible. It's the kind of silence that doesn't ask for closure because he already found it within himself, and that's what hits hardest. Most people are used to arguments, emotional outbursts, people fighting to stay. But the Sigma male doesn't fight for space in a place where he no longer belongs. He disappears. And when he does, he doesn't just walk out of your life. He pulls his energy, his presence, his attention, everything that made you feel seen, heard, and valued. At first it doesn't register. You think he's just giving space, maybe cooling off, but days pass, then weeks. And suddenly you realize he's not punishing you, he's gone, and that void he leaves behind. It doesn't echo with anger, it echoes with truth. The truth about how deeply he detached, how quietly he stopped caring, and how completely he's erased you from his world. He won't explain his exit, he won't send a message to let you know it's over. He simply lets you feel the weight of what you threw away, and while you're replaying every moment, every word, every mistake, you'll begin to understand that silence was the punishment. You won't be able to argue with it, fix it, or reach through it, because by the time you feel his absence, he's already found peace in yours. Number 5, he operates outside your emotional currency. You can't guilt trip, manipulate, or control someone who has already severed all need for validation. Most people don't realize how much control they try to keep over others by using emotion as currency, approval, guilt, silent treatments, praise. It's all part of the transaction. But with a Sigma male, none of it works. He isn't playing your game because he never bought into the emotional economy in the first place. You can't reward him with attention. You can't punish him with silence. You can't bait him with affection or make him dance for your approval. He cut those wires a long time ago. He's not chasing acceptance. He's not hoping you'll finally see his worth. He already knows who he is, and that unshakable self-awareness makes him immune to emotional manipulation. That's why people often say he's cold or hard to reach. But the truth is, he's just untouchable to anyone who thinks power comes from emotional control. You try to guilt him, he won't flinch. You try to withhold love or attention, he won't notice. You try to push his buttons, you'll only realize you were pressing on stone. He has mastered detachment, not because he's numb, but because he values peace over chaos, clarity over confusion. And when he senses someone trying to control him, even subtly, he doesn't argue, he doesn't explain, he simply withdraws, quietly, calmly, completely. That's when it hits you. He wasn't ignoring you, he was protecting his power. And the moment you tried to use emotion as leverage, you lost access to him. The Sigma male cannot be controlled because he doesn't need what you're offering. He doesn't move for approval. He doesn't fold for guilt. And that makes him not just rare, but impossible to own. Number 6, He doesn't fight fire with fire, he watches you burn out. You expected drama, he gave you detachment. The lack of reaction disarms your entire plan. Most people are used to chaos. They throw jabs and light emotional fires just to get a reaction. They expect shouting matches, guilt trips, long text wars, or emotional breakdowns. But with a Sigma male, you get none of that. You throw fire and he just steps back and watches you set yourself ablaze. No response, no effort to match your energy, just silence so steady it feels like standing in front of a locked door with no key. He's not interested in proving a point. He doesn't need to win an argument or throw your mistakes back in your face. He knows exactly what you're doing, and that's why he refuses to play. The more aggressive or dramatic you become, the calmer he gets. The more noise you make, the quieter he becomes. And that calm, that stillness, it slowly starts to feel like a mirror, not one that flatters, but one that forces you to see your own behavior with no filter. He doesn't fight you because you're not worth the energy. And the moment you realize he's not engaging, it hits different. Your plan to provoke, control, or shame him falls apart, because without his reaction, you lose your power. And when the dust settles, you're left there in the aftermath of your own storm while he's already moved on. No drama, no scars, just distance. And it's that calm detachment that hurts the most. Not because he's angry, but because he's unaffected. He doesn't need revenge. He lets your own fire consume you. While you burn out looking for attention or dominance, he simply stands outside the flames, untouched and already gone. Number 7. He will disappear from your reach, but live rent-free in your memory. You'll think of him when you face silence, consequences, or your own reflection. When a Sigma male walks away, he doesn't leave a mess behind. He leaves a presence, a stillness that lingers long after he's gone. At first you may not notice it, you might even convince yourself he was forgettable, too distant, too quiet. But over time you begin to feel the absence in strange, unexpected places. When things go silent, when people let you down, when you're alone with nothing but your own thoughts. That's when he creeps back into your mind, not as someone who begged to stay, but as someone who made peace with leaving. You'll remember his calm when you acted out, his silence when you pushed, his boundaries when you crossed lines. And more than anything, you'll remember how he never fought to convince you of his worth. He just let you figure it out when it was already too late. You'll go looking for that same presence in others. But it won't exist. No one else carries themselves the same. No one else knows how to stay grounded while everything else falls apart. And slowly, your memory of him won't be filled with bitterness. It'll be filled with a quiet regret that you had something rare and you couldn't recognize it until it was no longer yours. You'll try to move on, but there will always be a part of you that compares the calm, the clarity, the depth he brought. He's not coming back. He doesn't need to. Because while you struggle to forget, he's already built a life that doesn't include your chaos. And that's the twist. He's unreachable now, but you'll carry the thought of him everywhere you go. Number 8, he makes your betrayal his breakthrough. That moment you thought you weakened him. It became the reason he moved to the next level. You thought you broke him. Maybe you thought your lies, your silence, or your games would leave him stuck. But all you really did was open a door he didn't know he needed to walk through. Sigma males don't respond to betrayal the way most people do. They don't collapse. They transform. Pain doesn't hold him down. It sharpens his focus. Betrayal doesn't break him. It clears out dead weight. The very moment you thought you crushed him was the same moment he started upgrading his mindset, his goals, his standards. You didn't take his strength. You gave him a reason to build a stronger version of it. While you were celebrating his downfall, he was already rebuilding in silence. He wasn't sitting in a dark room, licking wounds. He was taking notes. He was reevaluating his circle. He was planning his next move with more clarity and less attachment. And when he rises, and he will rise, you won't even recognize him. Not because he changed who he is, but because he stripped away everything that made him tolerable to people like you. Colder, clearer, focused, evolved. And the part that will haunt you is this. You played a role in his growth, but you won't be allowed near the version of him you helped create. That's the irony of trying to break a Sigma male. You end up sharpening him. You end up becoming the turning point in a story that leaves you behind. He doesn't just survive betrayal, he makes it the exact reason you become a lesson and not a legacy. Number 9, he transforms pain into strategic power. While you expect him to bleed, he turns pain into insight, silence into calculation, and lessons into leverage. Most people use pain as an excuse to fall apart. A Sigma male uses it as raw material. The betrayal, the failure, the heartbreak, you thought it would slow him down, but he doesn't react like most do. He doesn't panic. He studies it. He breaks it down piece by piece, not emotionally, but analytically. He looks at what happened, why it happened, and how to make sure it never happens again. And then he builds. You thought you were cutting him. What you really did was hand him a blueprint. He doesn't scream, he doesn't chase, and he definitely doesn't beg for answers. What he does is recalibrate, and once he has enough data, he starts making moves quietly, strategically, relentlessly. The same pain meant to destroy him becomes the reason his standards rise. His circle tightens, his focus sharpens, his tolerance shrinks. And he uses all of it, not just to protect himself, but to level up in ways you never saw coming. His silence isn't him retreating, it's him calculating. His distance isn't coldness, it's focus. You thought he was recovering, but he was already turning the lesson into leverage. And when he re-emerges, he doesn't announce it. He just is different, more intentional, more precise, less available, less forgiving. And by then it's too late to reach him, because he didn't just heal. He used the pain you gave him to build a life that makes you irrelevant. That's the power of a Sigma male. He doesn't just overcome pain, he weaponizes it, refines it, and turns it into the reason he'll never need to look back. Number 10. You won't know what chapter he put you in until you see yourself erased. By the time you realize you've lost him, your role in his story has already been deleted. With a Sigma male, there's no dramatic goodbye, no slow fade filled with second chances or desperate conversations. He doesn't do messy endings, he does clean cuts. And the moment he realizes you've crossed a line that compromises his peace, he quietly starts editing the story of his life. And your name stops appearing in future chapters. The most unsettling part? You won't know when it happened. He won't tell you he's letting go. He won't make a show of walking away. He'll still be polite. He might even smile. But behind the scenes, he's already moved you from center stage to a footnote, then from a footnote to silence, and finally to deletion. You'll feel it when his energy changes, when the depth of his presence disappears and all that's left is a surface-level version of the man you once knew. But by then, the decision has already been made. You don't get a memo. You just wake up one day and realize you're no longer in his world, and not because you were pushed out, but because he stopped allowing you access. That's the brutal beauty of how he handles betrayal, disrespect, or emotional games. He doesn't punish you. He just removes you from his reality. No explanations, no chance to bargain, just absence where there used to be connection. And when you finally understand what you've lost, when the silence becomes too loud and your memory of him too sharp, you'll realize you weren't just left behind, you were erased, quietly, completely, and that silence, it will echo far louder than any goodbye ever could. Number 11, he doesn't seek closure, he becomes it. He doesn't chase conversations, he ends narratives. He doesn't knock, he locks the door behind him. A Sigma male doesn't wait around for explanations that come too late or apologies laced with ego. He doesn't need someone else to tie up loose ends or walk him through their version of the story. When he sees the truth, he accepts it, no matter how ugly it is. He doesn't resist the lesson. He absorbs it, processes it, and then moves on with such finality it feels surgical. You won't get a long, drawn-out discussion. He doesn't need to talk it out to feel better. He doesn't reopen wounds for the sake of emotional theatrics. Once he's done, he's done. That's what makes it so unsettling. You expect a back and forth. You expect one more text, one more door left cracked open. But that's not how he operates. He doesn't beg for understanding. He doesn't wait for mutual agreement. He simply takes what he learned and applies it to the next chapter, without your name in it. And when he leaves, it's not out of anger, it's with clarity. It's not about making a point. It's about protecting his peace. While others cling to what could have been, he makes peace with what was and locks the door behind him so it can't come back to bite him later. You'll only understand what he did after it's too late to undo it. You thought he owed you closure, but he never needed it because he was the closure. You just didn't recognize it until he was already gone. In final words, you didn't break him, you made him more precise. If you've ever tried to hurt a Sigma male, what you probably didn't expect was the silence, not the kind that begs for attention, but the kind that signals he already let go. The truth is, Sigma males are built differently. They don't just bounce back, they evolve. And when you thought you left a scar, What you really did was force him to upgrade. They don't fight battles that drain them. They don't chase closure or cling to people who cross boundaries. They pay attention quietly and completely, and when it's clear your presence no longer serves their growth, they exit in a way that feels like vanishing. But make no mistake, their absence is the loudest truth they'll ever give you. And if you're a Sigma female listening to this, understand this power lives in you too. Your silence isn't weakness. Your ability to walk away without burning down the room is your edge. You don't need to retaliate. You don't need to prove you were right. Your growth is the proof. Your peace is the payback. You were never made for chaos. You were made to recognize it, learn from it, and rise above it. So let people misunderstand you. Let them think they got away with it. In the long run, your strength will always echo louder than their noise. Stay sharp, stay still, and never forget, your evolution will always outlive their intentions. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.